Today we're going to take a quick look at how we ended up doing with our ISO compliance for 2021. As you know, around April we started with Target Solutions in the hopes that we can improve our ISO rating and document our training more thoroughly. It took a while for everybody to get acclimated and to start using Target Solutions, but we have everybody on now. We've been using it, like I said, since April, and we're just going to compare April through December of 2020 to 21 to see how we're doing and how we can improve. So just as a reminder, the ISO requirements, we have several categories. Driver operator is where the majority of the people are. So driver operator is all firefighters, and it's also all rescue personnel, including the rescue officers. ISO is for fire training. It documents fire training. So for ISO purposes, the rescue lieutenants are listed as driver operator for the amount of training that they need to get throughout the course of a year. So in review, they're going to need 12 hours of driver's training, 18 hours of facilities training, and just to recap, facilities training has to be done at the fire training facility. And it doesn't matter what you do there. So for instance, if you do hose testing at the fire training facility, or you do ground ladder work, when you do your drill report, you're going to do it as facility training, and then just in the notes write what you did there, whether you did hose testing, whether you did ground ladder. So literally anything done at the training facility is considered facilities training. That's 18 hours. Hazardous materials is 6. You do not need any officer training. But if you do get any officer training, so for your officers on the rescue, or if anybody, if you take a class or something like that, you're still going to document it as officer training. Then what happens is, because your requirement is 0, all those hours will get dumped into company training. So you still get credit for them, so still put in for them. And company training is kind of the catch-all for everything else. And even going back to driver's training or facility training, if you get more than the minimum requirement, they all dump down into company training, so you're always getting credit for them. So this is the driver operator ISO requirement. Then if we take a look at the officer requirement, it's very similar. The only difference you're going to notice here is they have 0 for driver's training, no requirement for driver's training, and officers have 12 hours for officer training. And the same thing applies over here. So for instance, if I'm working on the trucks and I drive to the hospital to go pick people up, if I happen to drive a truck back and forth, when I drove the ladder truck, the new ladder truck back and forth from training, I put myself in for driver's training. My requirement is 0, but when I put myself in for the hours, it gets dumped down in company training, so I still get credit. And the facility trainings and hazmat training is the same as the driver operator, and obviously company training too. And both of these, when you add these up, is 228 hours a year to be ISO compliant for each member. So taking a look back, like I said, we're going to compare April to December because that's when we started doing Target Solutions in an effort to better document our training. So April 2020 to December 2020, total hours documented was 2,151. And over the same time period, the 9-month time period, while we're using Target Solutions, increased to 4,233. So that's the good news. So I did not include the training academy hours. All of the probationary firefighters, they all have their hours in. Anybody who was in the staff with us, I added hours for us for the training academy. So I didn't add those hours. This is just for line training, if you will, training that was done on the job. So some of the people are actually much higher because of the training academy, but this is just for regular work. And like I said, the good news is that it's double, almost exactly double from the previous year. So it did improve our documentation. That being said, if we look at this a little bit further, we see we definitely got a lot of room for improvement in here. So like I said, we documented 4,233 hours from this April to December. And like we said, each member is supposed to get 228 hours a year of training, or document 228 hours a year of training. We have 108 members currently, so that means that we should have 24,624 per year, which narrows down to 2,052 hours per month as a job. So in order to be compliant for that same 9-month time period where we did 4,000 hours that were documented, We actually needed to be at 18,468 hours in order to hit our goal for the year. So although we doubled it from the previous year, which is good, we got a long way to go. We have to pretty much quadruple our training hours in order to be compliant, which seems a little daunting, but we're going to talk about some ways to help with that in a minute. And what that boils down to is each member needs to average 19 hours a month to reach their 228 hours. And each member works roughly about 16 shifts a month. So obviously half of those are nights, and some of those are also weekends, which you're probably not going to be documenting training hours for those, with the exception of your rig checks, which those will count towards working that number down a little bit. If we work 16 shifts a month or so, that's 8 days, so you need to average roughly 2 hours per day of training. We'll tell you some ways that we can help get those numbers. So this year in 2021, we had 3 members who reached their goal of 228 hours, and I did combine Target Solutions and ERS because prior to April, all the hours were recorded in ERS, and I did not include the Training Academy hours for the probationary firefighters or for anybody that helped us in the staff positions during the academy. So we had 3 members reach the 228 hours just with the training that they documented on the job. The highest number was 260 hours, and the low was just 38 hours. 38 hours is very low. You got to consider Target Solutions. This includes Target Solutions, which, I assigned about 20 hours worth. So the person who was down at the bottom with 38 only has 18 hours of training documented for the entire year of 2021. And there's quite a few people who are grouped down at the bottom there. Even some of our probationary firefighters have totals 37 hours, 41 hours, and this doesn't even include the member who hasn't been working with us for a while. These are people who have been here for the whole duration, and they have very few hours documented. So we got to do a better job of capturing those hours. So how can we improve going forward to make sure that we keep those numbers increasing so we can reach our goal? Basically, the bottom line is document your daily activities that can count towards training. These are things that you're already doing. Just document it at the end of the day or at the end of the tour. Make sure you look back on the things that you did and document the stuff that you're already doing. It's going to drastically cut into your hours and help with reaching that number. Daily rig checks. I do look every day at the Target Solutions, and I can tell you that they're not being done nearly as consistently as they were at the beginning. This is an easy way for you to get a bunch of your hours that count towards training. ISO allows a half an hour per shift for your rig checks. You're doing them anyway. You're checking your packs. You're checking your medications. You're checking your truck. You're doing all this stuff every single shift. Make sure you document it and get credit for your hours. If you do this every single shift, you're going to end up documenting between 70 and well over 90 hours per year of training just by checking your truck, which is something you do anyway. You need to be diligent. You need to get on there and document this. These are things that are done individually. Each member should be doing their own. Officers, if you decide you want to do them for everybody on your shift, you can do that. You can add users to it, but the way it's set up right now, you do not need to have officer rights to put this in. Everybody should be going in there and documenting their half an hour per shift. If you work the day, do your half hour. You get overtime that night, put yourself in for another half an hour. You're going to check the truck, get credit for doing it. Weekly checks. Again, I put a shortcut link on the front page to make this easy for somebody. 2 hours per Wednesday, actually Tuesday as well if you're doing the special hazards. We work roughly 13 Wednesdays a year, so that's 26 hours a year if you document it properly. It's actually even more because you have your Tuesday checks on the hazards. If you're at the ones and you're working a Tuesday, Wednesday, you're checking the hazards on Tuesday, you're checking your regular truck on Wednesday, that's 4 hours of training. The next week you're going to be working just Wednesday day, you're going to get another 2 hours of training. These things all add up in the end. You're doing them anyway. You have to document it. These weekly checks, this is actually a drill report. So this is something that the company officers need to do for your whole crew. Just go on there. There is a shortcut. It's very easy to do. It's easy 2 hours of training that you're going to get every single Wednesday. Like I said, Tuesday as well if you're checking the special hazards. Driver's training. Existing driver's training should be 12 hours per year. You can put somebody down for driver's training anytime they're driving. If you're discussing anything, you can, while you're in the truck, if you talk about anything related to drive, put everybody in the truck down for driver's training. So this should be the most easy category to fulfill. And surprisingly enough, nobody ever puts down for driver's training. I have in front of me the report the ISO report for all of the probationary firefighters, and 12 of the 20 probationary firefighters have 2 hours or less of driver's training documented. I know they've driven the trucks for a lot longer than 2 hours in the time that they've been on. So anytime somebody's driving, put yourselves down for driver's training. If you're just driving around the city, you're checking things out, you're driving down to city garage for whatever, for fuel, put yourself in for driver's training. It's easy training that you can document. District familiarization. We're always talking about different buildings. We're talking about calls. If we had this, where would we park? You know, when you pull up to a house for a rescue call and you talk about a building around it, or hey, if we had a fire here, what were we doing? That's district familiarization. If you go into a building you haven't been into in a long time and you're looking around after the rescue call, that's district familiarization. This is a very easy drill, even on a busy day where maybe you didn't get out and flow water or do, you know, a larger scale drill. District familiarization. I'm sure you did something that day that you can put yourself down for district familiarization. Hydrant inspections. If it snows, we're going to be checking those out during the winter. In the spring, we're going to be doing our flowing on the hydrants. And in the fall, we're going to be making sure that the hydrants aren't wet. We're going to be out there doing it. The whole job's going to be out there doing it. Again, I put a short link on there to make this easy for everybody. Document your hydrant inspections. That's going to get you probably 5 hours each a year. Hose testing is another thing. We're going to be doing it. I put a quick link on there. Another 4 or 5 hours a year that you're going to get for training. It's something you're already doing. Make sure you document it. It's considered a drill. Outside training and classes. On the main page, there's a link for those on there for firefighters and for officers. If you take a class outside of here, it counts towards training. When next time you come into work, document the training, put it in there, and you get credit for it. You already did it. You might as well get the credit. And if you add all these up between, you know, the 70, 90 hours, your weekly checks, driver's training, your hydrant inspections, hose testing, you're actually going to get more than half of your yearly hours just by documenting the things you already do. Then all the extra things that you do when you're flowing water or doing whatever drills you're doing, that's just going to bring it right up to that total and bring you a lot closer. But you're never going to get there with the amount of days we work unless you document the things that we already do on a day-to-day basis. So you need to be diligent with those and doing it. Again, firefighters, you are all capable of putting in your daily rig checks, and then the officers, you should be doing the same, and then the officers can be putting in the weekly ones. And officers, if any of you want to know where you and your crew stand as far as hours for 2021, then you can send me an email, and I'll either show you how to do the report, or I'll generate the report and send it to you, and you can see how you ended up doing, and then you'll know what you can do for improvement. Same goes for battalion chiefs. If you want to know how your crews did last year, then you can let me know, and I can run a report for you. And going back to your ISO tracker, that's going to reset after the new year. So by the time this is out, it should have already been reset, and you'll be starting from zero again, working your way up. It resets every January 1st. And lastly, make sure, officers, that you're doing a daily drill report. We obviously are busier than we've ever been. You know, we broke our record for runs this year, and we have a lot of things going on. We're touring in a lot of directions. We have a lot more documenting we have to do. But this platform, the Target Solutions, is very easy to do a drill report. Something you did that day can qualify as a drill. Every day you should be putting something in for a drill report. And if it's easier, wait till your second night and then, you know, write a little notepad and then put something in for each day. But it's part of our job that we have to document the things that we're doing, and just have to make it part of our regular routine, try to help us work towards our goal. And if anybody has any questions on the ISO stuff or on drill reports, then just give us a call over here in the DOT, and we'll be glad to head over and help you out with anything. Thanks.